So, Chris, did you see anything good at the cinema this week?
Yeah, Mary Poppins was on. That was pretty good.
Mary Poppins, I saw that as well. It's a classic, that one, isn't it? You can't go wrong with Mary Poppins.
It's not bad, yeah.
No.
I might have seen something else, probably a couple of times, and it was rather good. I thought.
Now, let's just get it out the bag. What was it you saw this week at the cinema, Chris?
Well, it was a one-word title film,
and
it was called SPECTRE
or
something like that.
Now, how many times have you seen it so far?
3, same as you.
3 times, same as me. I've seen it. Basically, I saw it on the Monday night, obviously. We went again the following night, wasn't it? We went on Tuesday night as well.
That's it, yeah.
And then I went just last night, which would be Saturday night, obviously. So, we're obviously going to go through the 30 days of Spectre. We're going to be talking about Spectre every day for the entire month. And we're going to lock into one particular subject every day and have good old chinwag. And the title of today's episode, obviously, is the Red Carpet Premiere. So you and I obviously were lucky enough to get tickets through good old-fashioned Jbr listener Rory Cooper. We salute you, my good man, our good man.
Nice one, Rory.
We
gave him a good man hug, didn't we?
We did, several of them. And he came through, bless his heart, and managed to secure us a couple of tickets. So we went as a 3-way to the Albert Hall. And I remember coming out afterwards, do you remember? And I said, guys, I think this is the best day I've ever had.
I remember, yeah.
And I meant it. I really meant it. And I look back and I feel like the whole experience was just this amazing, beautiful, wonderful dream. How was it for you?
It was very dreamlike. It was really surreal. It was like the build-up and the excitement during the day was awesome because obviously we had quite a good Bond-filled weekend leading up to it. I think once you're suited and booted, that's when things start to happen. You know, once you got the dinner jacket on, the tie, and I remember I had my suit on and I was on my way to meet you guys, and I was just getting little sort of. I couldn't stop smiling, and people were sort of looking at me going, what's he laughing at and stuff like that. And then obviously met up with you guys and it was like, right, now we're on. Now it's game time.
Do you know what? There's something that happens, isn't there? When you get suited and booted, even if it's a non-Bond thing, you get suited and booted, you put the jacket on, right, okay, you put the trousers on, you get all set up and all the rest of it. And the last thing usually to go on for me anyway is the dicky bow. And then you get the dicky bow and then you straighten yourself up and then you look in the mirror. And the same thing, I would wager, happens in every man's mind at that moment when you first look at yourself in the mirror after you got suited and booted. And it's that thing, that like X Factor confidence. You know, when people who just can't see and going on an X Factor and they think they're amazing, it's the same thing. You put a suit on and you go, I reckon I'd make a good Bond. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That happens every time. And even more so for me this time, obviously, because I had the old white jacket on with the little carnation, or the fake carnation, I will say, it wasn't real, and all that kind of stuff. So the three of us, we went and we were kind of like in different styles of Bond mode, weren't we? I was in obviously the Spectre outfit, or the Goldfinger kind of white jacket styly. You were in your Goldfinger sort of grey 3-piece, and Rory was in more of the traditional sort of black Dr. No kind of dinner jacket kind of styly. So we were keeping all angles kind of covered, weren't we?
Yeah, too right. It was awesome, and I think. Yeah, I don't know. I was hoping, I was going to get Lazenby, but I think I'll have to wait for next time with the whole kilt, the kilt and stuff like that, because that could be quite a look.
Now, I have a question, right? Okay. Which I haven't seen. I haven't actually watched the full footage of the whole premiere thing yet, as they were watching it on TV, for example. But when we were walking up to the Royal Albert Hall, we all met at the tube station, and as we walk along, we hear this, and we look, and there's this beautiful Aston Martin DB5 went bombing it round the corner really fast. And then not long after that, we hear the crowd around the corner let out this massive cheer. So our theory was that was Daniel arriving, wasn't it?
I reckon it must have been either that or, well, it couldn't be anyone else, could it? It had to be Daniel. I wonder if if it was him, I wonder if he was driving or if he had if he was being chauffeur driven.
Yeah.
That would be a good point. But we kind of heard it, didn't we, before we saw it? So we heard the car, obviously real distinctive engine noise. We looked up and we just saw sort of the rear end of it basically almost drift around this corner, and then disappear, and then it was like,
so it must have been him. But I think what we have to do is obviously check the footage from the TV to see if that's what he does show up in. I'm pretty sure in the Skyfall premiere he showed up in a DB5, But yeah, that was a cool moment. So then obviously we turned around the corner, and then for a while, because it was so like shoulder to shoulder, wasn't it, with just like people who didn't have tickets, and the whole street was just kind of rammed. So it took us ages to kind of piece our way through, and then there's kind of like two red carpets, isn't there? There's like the red carpet where all the ticket holders have to queue, that's behind this like wall like kind of thing, and then they kind of, when they open the gate, you all kind of file in, and then you blend into the red carpet with like everybody else, including all the stars and stuff. So like for me, it was like I was like a 5-year-old boy again. Like it was mental. I don't think I've ever experienced anything like that. I've been to a couple of film premieres before, but like just little ones. And this is just a whole different ball game. Like what was going on in your mind at that point?
Well, I kind of, there's so many people. I wanted to try and get glimpses of them. So as we were walking down, that sort of corridor of like a mass of people, we were kind of looking over, peering over, trying to see some of the, cast arriving, and we couldn't quite do it. And but I didn't care if I was being squashed. I didn't care if people were barging to and fro, because I knew that in 10, 15, 20 minutes time, I was going to be there. But once we got out of the crowd and we were onto the red carpet, we saw a couple of the listeners as well, a couple of Jbr listeners.
We did, didn't we?
Cool. So that was really nice to see them. And then obviously we took a couple of selfies and a few pictures. But we're on the red carpet on the first stretch where we're behind this wall, and you can hear the sort of craziness going on that's the other side of this wall, but you can't quite see what it is. So it got to that point where we just turned that corner, and as soon as you turn the corner, you see that like all the journalists, people were screaming for the names. Daniel, over here, over here. Yeah. We saw Mr. Hinks not far away. Garrett, Mallory, Ray Fiennes not far away, and then suddenly it hits you, doesn't it? You see the big screen with SPECTRE on it, and you get the full on right in your face, and that was awesome.
It was buzzing, wasn't it? So it was basically, to sort of describe it, the red carpet was like an L shape, wasn't it? So the first kind of long part of the L was like there were just sort of crowds of people either side, like fans basically, and they were going along signing autographs as they went. Couple of TV presenters actually on the red carpet interviewing people going in. And then when you reach the end of the L in the corner, there was the sort of far end wall of the L was just like a row of cameras for the TV interviews. So like the actors would walk down, see all the fans, get to the end, pose in front of the cameras, and then they'd walk along and they'd go to each camera and do an interview. And that led up the steps to the Albert Hall to a stage at the top where the DB10 was parked, and David Walliams was up there doing like the big interview for the TV up the top. So there was this, like the system was going on, wasn't it? Basically, it was like the actors would start off with the fans, then go to the interviews, and then end up with Walliams, and then they'd be in the Albert Hall. And then there was these big screens everywhere, wasn't there, just sort of showing some of the interviews as they were happening live, Bond themes playing left, right and centre. And then every now and then they'd play a little snippet of SPECTRE, and obviously we didn't want to see it, so we had to like look away, like because we didn't want to see it. I've never experienced anything like that before, man. I must admit, I was one of the lucky few who managed to see Led Zeppelin when they reformed a few years ago. And it was, the atmosphere that night was electric, but nothing like this, man. This was next level stuff. Absolutely unbelievable. And it was like we were literally rubbing shoulders with Hinks, weren't we, as we walked past at the beginning?
Oh, that's it. You said this great word there, electric and energy. That's the atmosphere was just buzzing, and you could feel it in the air. You could feel it. Everyone was so excited, everyone. And like when we got to that point at the end of the first sort of, I was going to say runway, but that first bit of the red carpet, and then left, all those stairs going up sort of made it even more, I guess important in a way, or it just looked very grand, didn't it?
Yeah.
And we had the big stage, like you mentioned, the DB10 was there, the Hinks's Jag was there, and it had a screen behind it so you could see what was going on. So yeah, the atmosphere was buzzing, and it was so good. And you had to be. I think we did quite good for our first premiere, because you have to go in with a tactical plan. Yeah. Because I'm sure there were some people that rocked up, were like, "Whoa, this is brilliant!" Got to the end, and within 5 minutes we're inside the Royal Albert Hall. But we didn't do that, did we, Tom?
We were lucky because we had Rory, who'd been to the Skyfall premiere, and he was giving us tips, wasn't he, on how to get the most out of it. And the problem was, and it's obviously totally natural, is there's like basically security guards all the way along, basically ushering everyone along. So they are all moving and there's a flow of traffic of people. Now, we obviously didn't want to be sort of flown along too quickly. We didn't want to get involved with that flow too much. We wanted to hang out on the red carpet for a while. And that was Rory's tactic. Rory was like, look, just take really baby steps and just drink it all in and just, you know what I mean? Don't move too quickly. Otherwise it's going to be over before we even know it. So we took our time, didn't we? And there was a couple of moments when the security guys were getting a little bit tetchy with us, weren't they? And they were like, come. And there was that one guy near the end, wasn't he? He was like, please move. Like he was like, he was just all defeated, which was funny. Yeah. But yeah, so that kind of first bit, we were walking along and it's just like a feast of the eyes, isn't it? Like an assault on the senses, just everywhere you look. It's like, oh shit, there's Moneypenny over there. There's Hinks, you know what I mean? Here comes Christoph Waltz, like there he is kind of stuff. And then obviously loads of TV presenters and then obviously we saw, as we were walking along, we saw Martin Campbell walk straight past us, didn't we, on the red carpet? Yeah. So there's like just people everywhere that you're like, whoa, you don't know where to look next. And it was just brilliant. And then so we get to the end and we hear shouted out over in the corner, don't we? J-Spot Radio! And we turn over and there's one of our listeners there with a massive great selfie stick kind of filming the red carpet, which was cool. It was Mr. James Blundell, I think, if I remember correctly. And then we paused at the end, and then where we really came into our own, wasn't it, was as we were going up the steps. That's where we literally would go one step and then hang out for 5 minutes and then do one more step and then hang out for another 5.
I think we played some good tactical decisions there because when they sort of say, "Oh, move on," you got to have your phone with you. There were the amount of times where I was almost pretending to take a photo, or you know, my phone wasn't set up to take one, but I'd hold it up just because that allowed you that extra sort of minute or whatever to hang around. And then by that time, they've gone on to ask someone else. So that gives you these extra couple of minutes. So this is really important stuff, listeners. So for any premieres that you go to, you've got to learn how to linger. You've got to learn how to look inconspicuous to avoid the security guards as much as you can. Yeah. So don't do anything crazy or lots of big movements because that'll attract them. Yeah. And just try and slip in, you know, hide yourself amongst the crowd. Use your phone as much as you can. Take lots of pictures. You know, all these sort of things are super important if you want to get some sort of
the good thing about the security guys is they weren't like obnoxious with it. They were sort of understanding, weren't they? Because it was, they'd be like, you know, okay, look, just take one picture and then please, you know, kind of get a move on kind of thing. And it was, they were nice. They weren't like really ruthless or anything, which was cool. Yeah. But then something that's really pleased me is one of our listeners sent through an email and I'm like, look, check this video out. And it's basically an interview with Danny Boy. And he stood at the end in the corner of the L. He's there to, you know, this is a great film, blah, 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 blah. And then in the background, you and me just come strolling in and we're both just looking at him in complete awe in the background. It's the back of Daniel's head. Look, there he is. And then we both getting our phones out and we're just in the background, like filming him. And then you can see the camera sort of just trying to pan away from us so we're not in shot. And like, and then we walk back in and it was hilarious. So that's on our Facebook page. You've got to check that out because that really made me laugh out loud when I saw it.
That was a great link. I sent that on to some of my family, and they were like laughing out. It was great, and it's good because that's how, you know, we were pretty close to Daniel. He was a tricky one though, wasn't he? Because you know, when we get towards the top of the stairs, there's a bit more of a large area, isn't there, where you can sort of hang around a bit more, and obviously the stars have to go through there. Some of them, like we got like the amount of cool photos we got. Like Thomas Newman was there. We got a great photo with Thomas Newman, didn't we? Yeah. Jesper Christensen, and he looked, and he was really nice, wasn't he? He was really happy, and he was like really down to earth. He was a right dude. So we had a good photo with him and one or two others. There's one who I'll mention a bit later, which I was super excited about. But so you're at this wide red carpet area. This is right by the entrance. So it's basically behind the stage, isn't it? Where a few people were taking photos and stuff. So there are two sides leading up to this stage. So there is like, if you're looking up the steps, on the left side is where the majority of people went. On the right side is where some of the stars went to do interviews. Yeah. But by the time you come back around the back of the stage, you can see their side, and you could see Daniel. And he was slowly creeping up that side. And as soon as he was, the number of security guards just like rocked up, didn't they? And the number of people waiting there to try and get a photo sort of just grew and grew. Yeah. And you know, you're waiting on tenterhooks, waiting for something to happen. And like, I don't know if they caused a distraction or, a diversion or something, but within a flash, he was suddenly gone, wasn't he?
Well, that was it.
Like
It was kind of, because we were hanging out with Marcus from JamesBondBrazil.com all weekend, weren't we? We met him at the Blackpool Autograph thing, which we'll talk about later on. But and then every point during the weekend, Marcus would pop up somewhere and we'd be like, there he is again. And we would just basically go into the same things all weekend, basically. And he was so good with the camera, wasn't he? He was like, he'd be in there, he'd be on it. He got so many photos. So when we were hanging out with him, we sort of managed to jump into some of his photos. It was him that kind of cornered Jesper Christensen. And I think we were like one of the only ones to get a photo with him, actually. And all that stuff. I managed to jump in and get a photo with Stephanie Sigmund just as she was leaving, which was cool. So that point at the end of the bank of cameras, like that's the sweet spot where there is a gap, because obviously they're being chaperoned along the whole time to each camera. That's the gap where it's like, okay, interviews are finished, walking into the Albert Hall, and it's that point where you can pounce. So yeah, we got loads of photos. And who else did we get a photo with, Chris?
Well, there was one who I was particularly fond of, and I gave a little gentle squeeze as well, just which I hope she didn't mind. But yeah, I mean, Barbara Broccoli, I was so happy because obviously I'm massive fan. She's just like my hero pretty much, and you could see she was really lovely as well. I think there was like some kids around, and she was like just making sure they were having a good time, and she was obviously about to enter. And we managed to, I was just like, hi Barbara, please do a photo battle. And she was like more than happy.
She was so lovely, wasn't she? That was the thing.
So
like,
cool.
For example, when we turned around, because it was when we first got to that section, we turned around and was like, shit, that's Thomas Newman. And he just stood right there, just hanging out. So we jumped in, got a photo with him. And he was so lovely. He was like, of course, come here. Like, he was really nice. And there's that thing always with celebs, isn't there, where you're like, how are they going to react to the photo thing? Because you know how much they hate it. But at the same time, it's like, this is the one night where that's their job, in a sense, isn't it? Walking on that red carpet, they're there to be photographed and, put out the publicity. And Barbara was the same when she was lovely. She was like, sure, come around. And like, she was just so, and it was kind of like afterwards, I was like, damn, man, that was like our perfect opportunity to be like, hey, you should listen to JBR, come on and we'll interview you, kind of thing. But it was just so fast, wasn't it? Because once we'd had the photo, within a second she was whisked away, and that was it. Yeah. And it was so blink and you miss it, and then you turn around and you see somebody else over here. Shit, we've got to get a photo, and we're so sort of wrapped up in getting a photo with them that just completely slipped my mind completely. But yeah, it was fun nonetheless. When it was cool.
Yeah, it was great, and I think, I mean, that was brilliant. I think with Barbara, it was a case of, we were lucky to get the photo. I think she would have been gone quite quickly. Some of them, had a bit more time, I guess, didn't they, to sort of chat and stuff like that, which is quite cool. We saw Natalie Imbruglia as well.
She was in the line next to us, wasn't she? She was absolutely beautiful, old Natalie. Yeah. But my favourite photo actually was one of Marcus's photos. I turn around and like he did so well, because she was super hard to get close to, was Leah Seydoux. And it was another one of those where she was surrounded by bodyguards, and he was like, quick photo. And she kind of stopped her bodyguards and stopped to pose for him. And I was like, it was like slow motion Matrix. I was like, I've got to get in this photo. So I'm like, to sort of like swivel around and get in front of the camera quickly. And then when I looked at the actual photo in the end, you've got Marcus perfectly in shot like that, Leah Seydoux in the background, perfectly in shot. And then you've just literally got my nose and part of my mouth kind of like right at the edge of the frame. I was like, that's enough. I'm happy. I'm in the photo. That's all I care about. I'm in the photo. So I was happy with that.
She was pretty cool, wasn't she? She did the old sign and stuff like that.
She was cool, and she looked amazing. She had like a golden sequin dress on, like proper sort of old school Bond girl style kind of dress. So that was that. So that was like the red carpet thing, and it's kind of like you don't want to leave the red carpet, do you? It's like you don't want to go, but like that moment where Daniel reached the end of his interviews and we all kind of surged forward. There were so many bodyguards around him. There was just no way you were going to get close to him. But anyway, so after that, it's like time to go and queue up. So we're kind of standing in line, and then we sort of, buy a program, for example, and sort of we started to leaf through that, and we're like, actually, no, I don't want to see any pictures. I don't want to see. And then we kind of go into the Albert Hall itself, and then obviously it's a huge circular kind of venue, and we were to like the left of the screen, quite close to the screen. So our viewing angle was quite sharp, wasn't it? We were like at quite an angle. But
the seats rotated, didn't they? So
that's right, yeah. So the seats, you sit down, and then they actually moved around left or right. So you just rotated yourself, and it was much more comfortable. So we're in there for a while. It's got SPECTRE kind of like projected up on the screen. And then we all had to rise because the royals were arriving. And that was cool, wasn't it? Because do you remember, I remember that basically there's that bit where all the cast and crew line up inside, and then, Wills and Harry will go along and like ask them questions. You'll be like, oh, so did you enjoy making this film? Blah, 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 or whatever it is they talk about. And I remember seeing that in the old sort of Living Daylights documentary when they had that premiere, and it was like Prince Charles and Diana would be talking to Timothy Dalton and stuff, So there was that whole kind of parade, and then these dudes come out in funny dress and trumpets and play this fanfare, and then Prince William and Kate and Harry come in and sit down up in the corner. And then it was Mendez comes in and lines all the cast up, introduces them all.
So good.
So
good. We're really close, actually, weren't we?
We were, yeah. And it was strictly no photography, but I did manage to sneak a couple. I must be honest, I was a sneaky one. So I've got a photo of that lineup. Nice. And Higgs is just literally standing there, head and shoulders above everybody else. It's amazing when he comes out. Yeah, it was so cool.
In fact, speaking of Hinks, we almost had a little bathroom, not incident, but prior to going into the main seating area, we happened across Mr. Hinks in the men's, didn't we?
No, it wasn't Mr. Hinks. It was Mr. Bullion. That's who it was.
Oh, was it Mr. Bullion? I thought you said Mr. Hinks was in there. Oh, cool. No. Goldie was there, was he?
Yeah. So that was the point, actually. I completely forgot about that. So we all go in, and obviously there's a massive line, and we go in there and do our business, our man business. And then I'm washing my hands, and I turn around, and there's Goldie stood right next to me. I was like, "It's Mr. Bullion. He's right there. We just had a wee next to Mr. Bullion, and we didn't even know about it."
Did you smile at him?
Yeah, he was a bit grumpy, actually. So in he went. So that was a Bond sighting of the day, which is pretty cool. And then I remember sitting there and spotting spotting Martin Campbell down there having a watch. So he was there watching it. I wonder what he thought. It'll be interesting to get his thoughts. And then we watched the movie. So I suppose, as today's about the red carpet premiere, we should probably keep this spoiler free, shouldn't we? And not actually reveal anything about the movie, because we're obviously going to be talking about that every day for the rest of the month. And just keep it about the premiere experience for today. But let's just get some feelings, Chris. So from the moment the lights go down and the film starts, without giving away any spoilers, tell me about the emotional journey you went through inside. What were you thinking? How were you feeling?
Well, I think we sat down. Obviously, when the lights were still up and stuff, you kind of you're people spotting, aren't you? Kind of celeb spotting or whatever, and that's kind of good fun. But as soon as those lights go down and you know what's about to happen, it's like the longest 30 seconds of your life. But like the excitement and the anticipation levels, you're about to watch something for the first time. In fact, this is something Maury mentioned, that we're about to watch something for the first time that we're probably going to watch hundreds and hundreds and hundreds
for the rest
of times
our lives,
for the rest of our lives, and this is the first time. And to be able to see it in that environment was unbelievable. It really was. So the lights go down, the adrenaline is pumping. I think we all did like a bit of a thigh slap on each other just for the excitement and stuff. And and then as soon just to hear a little bit of music just to let you know that it's about to start. And I was just thinking to myself, I was praying. I was quietly confident that I thought it was going to be good. I never prior to seeing a film, I never want to think, oh, this is going to be the best film I've ever seen, because that's impossible, and it can only get worse. So if you go in thinking it's going to be good, so I was just praying that I hope that it will, well, obviously I hoped it was going to be amazing and that I really enjoyed it, and I hope that you guys were going to enjoy it. And and I just like, wow. Let's do it then. You almost like, it's almost like getting ready for, well, not that I've done it, but getting ready for a fight or something like that. You're just like, you're really psyched up, and then boom, and then it just happens. But like I can't wait
to get stuck into these reviews. And well, like I say, we're gonna do a different segment of the film every day for the full month. But like, I can't wait to get stuck into the meat and potatoes of this review, because there is so much to talk about. And again, we're not going to reveal anything. We're not even going to hint at anything in this episode. So don't worry, we're not going to spoil anything for you. But I came away, in terms of how I felt during watching that film, I was glued from start to finish. One thing I remember saying is, when I sat down, because you want to get prepared, and we mentioned this before, like you don't want to be like, oh man, I need a wee like halfway through or whatever, or whatever it is. I sat down and I was really hungry because I hadn't eaten since the lunchtime. And I thought, oh man, I wish I had something to eat, but I'll just, whatever, I'll just have to get on with it. So I'm sitting there and I'm like so hungry, my stomach's kind of growling at me. That film started and I completely forgot how hungry I was. And I didn't even feel it again till after the film had finished. I was absorbed in it from start to finish. And like I said to you as well, I almost wish there were little GoPro cameras on the seats in front of us to film our reactions to stuff, because I felt myself like so absorbed in certain scenes that I would love to see what my face must have looked like looking back at it. Do you know what I mean? And for all of us, and I remember thinking to myself, man, I want to tell Chris and Rory how much I'm enjoying this, but I don't want to spoil it, because I don't want to be that guy in the cinema who's talking when other people are trying to watch the film. And then just halfway through, I just had to turn around and I just looked at you both and I went, I love this film. And then you went, I do too. And it was like, yes, yes.
Well, that was the funny thing, because I was watching it, and like you, I think like any discomfort or anything like that, nothing else enters your mind. You are there. You are watching it. You could be like sitting on hot coals, or like in a cryo chamber or something, and watching that film, and that's the only thing that you'd be concentrating on, and you wouldn't be thinking about anything else. Your eyes were just glued to the screen, and you were just in the film almost, weren't you? You were just so sort of taken by it. But I didn't know what to say either, because I was watching the film going, oh my God, this is like, this is freaking unbelievable. And I wanted to see what you guys were thinking, but I didn't want to, like you, I didn't want to say anything, because I thought, part of my mind was thinking, what if Tom doesn't like it?
Yeah.
What if he's not sure about it? And like, what if Rory thinks it's a bit crap? In fact, there were a couple of times that me and Rory sort of glanced at one another when certain lines were said, or we saw certain things, and we're both like loving it.
Yeah.
But because you were sat the other side of me, I couldn't quite, I didn't quite catch your eye as much.
Yeah.
And so I really didn't know until you sort of went, I love this film. I really didn't know what your thoughts were. So yeah, I mean, once that happened, I was like, man, that's awesome. So cool.
Yeah, it was one of those things when I turned around and said that, and both you and Rory looked at me and you were like, I do too. And then he was all smiles. I was like, yes, because we did say beforehand, didn't we? We said all of this amazing build up on the red carpet, this amazing, once in a lifetime experience. The first time both of us had done it, obviously Rory had done Skyfall, but like it was a dream come true moment, the whole thing. And then we said, well, we're queuing to get in, like, fuck, I hope the film's good, because if the film was rubbish, if we were about to go in and watch Die Another Day, it would taint the whole thing. But for me, it was brilliant. Now, when it comes to this film, there have been some mixed reviews. I think from what I've seen online, it's almost overwhelmingly positive, but there's a group of people that really don't like it, and it seems to be quite polarized. People either like, yes, this is brilliant, I felt like I was 12 years old again, and then the people that don't like it seem to really not like it.
It's strange.
And I can understand their argument. I don't agree with that argument at all, but I can see where they're coming from. I can see why they might think those things that they think. But obviously, once we get into the actual spoilery stuff, then we'll discuss that at detail and at length.
Yeah.
But for me, I loved every moment of it. Like in hindsight, after watching it for 3 times, there are a couple of things that I'd be like, do you know what? I think it would have been better if they'd have done that instead of this. But they are minor things, and there's as a whole, I am over the moon with this film. How about you, Chris?
Yeah, completely. I mean, 100% agree. I think you're never ever going to get the perfect film. You're never ever going to get a film that pleases everyone. That is an impossibility.
Yeah.
Like, some people don't like Casino Royale. Not many.
Don't
some
understand
people don't.
that. Yeah.
and you know, and that is a top quality film. But it's the same for every single Bond film. You know, everyone will like one, but equally there'll be at least one person that doesn't like that particular film out there.
Yeah.
And it works both ways, doesn't it? And it's a sort of thing where the way you got to look at it is, you don't want, okay, everyone's got their own opinions. If you love something, great. If you hate it, fine. If you're not sure but it grows on you, great, you know. But you can't you can't tell people they're wrong, because that doesn't make sense. That's not what it's about. Everyone's got their own sort of
I might have done that a little bit, actually, afterwards when we were waiting outside Leicester Square, because obviously what happened was we were going to do the double viewings, because obviously we originally planned the 11:30 viewing at Leicester Square. We got out really late and we were like, shit, we're not going to make it. So we basically got something to eat instead, and then we waited outside Leicester Square for everybody to kind of file out, and then we went to the casino. So everything hooked up. We just didn't watch it at Leicester Square, and everything else went as planned. So we were standing outside Leicester Square, and I had to quickly phone the TalkSport guys again and give them a quick review of what I thought of the movie. So I did that, and then while I'm waiting, I was just scanning through Facebook, and then one guy went, "I think that was an awful film, blah 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 blah," and he was all on a rant about how much he hated it. And then I posted, "Usually I say you're allowed your opinion, but you're not. It rocks. It's the best one. It's amazing." And then so I did that once, but it was meant with tongue in cheek. It wasn't serious. It kind of was serious, but it's not serious. Only a little bit serious.
I think the other thing as well is that it's incredibly difficult to have an opinion after one viewing which stands the test of time.
Well,
because I'm
going to just jump in. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Right. The obvious comparison here is something like Die Another Day, right? Where, yes, I knew something was wrong immediately, and I walked home broken from watching that film. And I went back to the cinema one more time, I think, to just check. It was either that, or maybe I waited to come out on DVD. I think I might have gone to check.
I think
I can't remember what I did now, but it was confirmed. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was like, this is not right. This is bollocks. But sorry, it is. Go on, finish what you're saying, because I rudely interrupted.
Well, basically, no, that's all right. What I was trying to say is, like, some films, okay, like with Casino, when you first saw that, you didn't know quite what to make of it, did you? And then second time around, amazing. You know, it's a classic. Films that might be middle of the road, like say Quantum, which upon first viewing, really not sure, didn't like. Well, I was sort of a bit vitriol about it. I really didn't like it, but it's grown on me. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is, everyone's got an opinion, and that's fine. Everyone's going to like Bond films, certain Bond films, and not like certain Bond films. And I think you've got to if you're one of the people that likes Spectre, I mean, happy days. You know, you're onto a winner, because it ticks all your boxes, and that's great. If you're one of the person that absolutely hates it, then it's a case of, well, there'll be other Bond films. Don't get angry about it or whatever. If you're really feeling that bad about it, then just distance yourself, watch it in a few weeks' time, and if you still feel the same, it can be your equivalent of Die Another Day, and then you don't have to watch it again.
I think I think it's difficult, isn't it? Because, for example, a lot of people loved Skyfall, and for me, that one, and it is interesting because I sent you my current ranking of the Daniel movies earlier on, didn't I? Today, I was like, "This is my current rundown," and where did that come, Chris?
Skyfall for you was actually bottom of the list, wasn't it? It came fourth out of the Daniel Craig.
Yeah, and I know for a lot of people that's going to be sacrilege. A lot of people love Skyfall, and for me, I was just kind of came out. I was like, it was all right. Just wasn't really what I wanted. And my opinion has sort of stayed that way. Obviously, it always grows a little bit. We both came out of Skyfall really disappointed, didn't we? We were like, it wasn't right or whatever. Yeah. Subsequent viewings, you're like, actually, and then you find the things you like about it, and it kind of raises up. So I don't rank Skyfall as a bad Bond film. It's just one that I don't particularly like all that much. It's like, it's all right for me personally. So obviously we'll reveal my ranking of the 4 Daniel films at some point during the 30 Days of Spectre. But interesting, isn't it, how things change?
Well, it got me thinking, because prior to starting this podcast, that was the last time that I saw the Craig films. So I haven't watched any of them since we started. That's a year and a half. That's crazy for me. That's like, that's alien territory basically.
Yeah.
So I've thought, well, we're not going to review the Craigs for ages. So next weekend I've set aside a day and I'm going to watch Casino Royale, Quantum, Skyfall, and I'll probably then watch Spectre in the cinema the following day. So I've got like all 4 films in 2 days, and then I'll sort of put mine in order and see.
Very nice.
Because I actually made a statement, didn't I, after the second viewing of Spectre?
Can we reveal what that statement was, Chris?
You can.
All
if
right.
you want, yeah.
This is
You were shocked by it, weren't you?
Whoa! I mean, I love Spectre, but Chris said we're waiting outside Leicester Square, and he went, "Oh no, this was on the after the second viewing. You took your glasses off, folded them up, and you went, I think it's better than Casino Royale." And I went, whoa, because that is a big fucking statement. And I was I'm not sure if I'm there, Chris. I'm not sure I'm there. I don't know whether I can agree with that or not. I don't know. But how do you feel now after the third viewing, a few days after that? You know, we're nearly a week after the films come out. How do you feel?
Well, the third viewing was a bit different because we were doing this review, I basically went to make notes.
Yeah.
So I was sitting in the cinema, obviously a dark cinema. I had a little notepad and pen. It was rammed full. Every single. I am really happy actually that literally cinemas up and down the country booked out with Spectre, and I love that. And I really hope it beats a Skyfall, and I think it will.
Yeah, me too.
Office. So I was in the cinema, crowd like people either side, and I had my little notepad and pen. And I was trying to write down notes as it happened, but obviously it was in the dark and I couldn't quite see what's going on. So I took my pad home. I had like sentences that crossed over each other into like gobbledygook, so I couldn't quite see what was going on. And then I'd obviously written over the pad onto my jeans because like half a sentence was there. Yeah. But I managed to get a few things. So watching it for the third time was more. I couldn't sort of take it in as much, properly. But I will obviously on the next viewing. So. Look, going back to that statement, now I think I said it might be better than Casino Royale. I don't think I said it definitely is better. I think I said this could possibly be better than Casino Royale. Now, 2 things about that. One, I haven't seen Casino Royale in over a year and a half, which again is crazy. Yeah. So this will be this. If I do this 4-film viewing on the weekend, next weekend, that will obviously jog my memory a bit. And also. Well, I still think it's a possibility. I haven't seen Casino Royale, so I'll see that and have a look. But I was, I was just.
I think long story short, man, Spectre is fucking good. I loved it. I proper loved it, and I don't think, because strictly speaking, man, when you think about it, the last 2 Bond films, we've both come out disappointed from seeing both of them. Yeah. Casino, I was like, wow, that was really different. Not sure how I feel. Like, this is so different. A couple of days to some muster on it, went back in for the second viewing. Holy shit, I think this might be the best one ever. Quantum, I came out being like, man, Casino was so good. This one didn't live up to it. Skyfall, again, we had that same sort of reaction. This time, was a different kettle of fish, man. I was just absorbed throughout. I came out buzzing like Cloud9 style-y. I was that happy with the film. So there was no negativity, no sort of umming and ahhing, no sort of I wasn't sure, nothing like that. It was cemented as an amazing film from that first viewing, wasn't it? Yeah, it was pretty impressive, really. Absolutely. So without straying into actually reviewing the film, because obviously that's for the upcoming episodes over the next 30 days, we will cease talking about our thoughts of the actual film right now. We won't talk about it anymore. But what we will talk about is the Jbr Meet-Ups, just to wrap up today's episode. So what we did, if you're not aware, is we put the call out to the Jbr family, didn't we, Chris? And we did a lunchtime meetup at a place called Scarlett's in Covent Garden. And then we also did the casino late night meetup after the Leicester Square showing as well. At the casino just right on Leicester Square, actually. There's like a 24-hour bar and casino down there, so that's where we went. So the lunchtime meetup was brilliant, man. I really enjoyed it. We hung out there for a good sort of 2.5 hours, I think it was. I'd had a little bit to drink the night before because it was the on the tracks of 007 party, which we'll talk about in full in another episode, I'm sure. I haven't got much time to do it today, but so I drank a little bit and I was a little bit hungover, so I was just drinking tea and juice and stuff that
you
afternoon.
had so many cups of tea.
Yeah, so I was off the sauce, but it was lovely to meet everyone, and what kind of struck me was, everyone would come in and be like, oh, hi, big fan of the podcast, whatever. And it was lovely to sort of put some faces to names and stuff. And there were loads of people we'd seen on Facebook, and it was like, oh, you're that guy that posted this. And, there's Brian Dobson with his Family Guy dog profile picture. And it was like, oh, it's hard to picture his face because I just see him as the Family Guy dog because that's what he posts on Facebook. But what the lovely thing is, chatting away. And then at one point I sort of just stopped and looked around. And the beautiful thing is I would say nearly everybody that came there came either on their own or they came with like one other person or whatever. And within minutes of being through that door, everyone was just locked in conversation with each other, and it was smiles everywhere, and it was just buzzing, wasn't it, man? It to not sound cheesy, it was a beautiful moment because it was like all of these people who never met each other before had this one thing in common, which is a love for Bond. And within minutes of meeting each other, everyone's just buzzing, talking about what they want to see in the film, talking about their favorite Bond film, like just locked in conversation. It was. I loved it, man. It was brilliant.
It was like, what we've said before about doing this podcast is like a little release valve, and you need it, and you've got to talk your Bond. And we've been lucky enough to have this, obviously, for the last 18 months or whatever. Yeah. But a lot of the listeners who turned up, they haven't had this outlet. So they've been kept up, and so many people I spoke to, and all of them were lovely. It was brilliant meeting everyone, so cool. And loads of them, everyone was sort of saying, well, I thought I was the only one. I didn't know anyone else liked Bond as much as I did. Yeah. But all of them said that sort of thing. And then I remember one point, I think you were at the bar, and I sort of, the same as you, I turned and there was like different groups of people all sat at different tables. So I did the rounds and stuff like that. Yeah. One of them were talking about the pros of Quantum. Another one were talking about the Roger Moore films and his best bits. And then, so-and-so was talking about their favourite Connery moment or something like that. But, there were at least maybe half a dozen different groups all chatting different subjects, but all on Bond, and all of them like just on it, and it's so cool.
That's brilliant. Like a dream come true, isn't it? Going in a room and you hear a group of people talking about the pros of Quantum versus Roger Moore's finest moments and all that kind of stuff. It was great. And do you know what is great as well? Everyone would just like normal people as well, isn't it? Because geeks and nerds get a bad rap, don't they? They're all like social retards or whatever. But everyone was just normal people who just love Bond. And a couple of them were suited and booted, weren't they? They had the Dickie Bows on already, which was nice.
And a few in JBR t-shirts as well.
Absolutely, really few cool. JBR t-shirts, yeah. And it was lovely. Honestly, it was so nice. Again, because I imagine a few people might be a little bit nervous going to somewhere where it's like, well, I'm going on my own, don't know a single person, but like literally within minutes, everyone is just locked in conversation. And I think that is the wonderful thing about Bond. Even if you're a Die Another Day fan, for example, you're going to walk in there and you're going to have something to talk about with everybody else. Definitely. And it was brilliant. I would have said there was probably 50 people there, would you say?
Yeah, 40, I'd say that throughout the day. I'd say, yeah, definitely 40, 50 people for sure. Just imagine though, if there'd been like a random passerby who hadn't listened to the podcast, didn't know anything about this, but happened to be a Bond fan. Yeah. And just imagine if he'd walked into this bar and just everywhere he turned, people were talking Bond, he or she. Anywhere they turned, people were talking Bond. It would be like, what have I just walked into? But absolutely. Superb. I really enjoyed it. And also the casino afterwards was fantastic. I know not everyone could make that. Yeah. And obviously it's a shame we couldn't do the Odeon. And I think some people had to leave straight after that so they couldn't come. But the casino afterwards was good fun.
I think we did mess up a little bit, didn't we? Because we were stood outside and then there was so many people came flooding out all of a sudden. I think lots of people actually didn't see us standing there and just like walked straight over and actually missed that we were there. But yeah, that was cool. We went down. They actually on the menu in the casino bar, they had vodka martinis, and it gave you the option, didn't it? It said they can be shaken or stirred, so you could go up there and say vodka martini, shaken, not stirred, and you didn't feel like a dick for saying it because it's on the menu. You had to tell them which one you wanted, and that pleased me a lot. I felt good doing that, especially in the outfit I was currently wearing. It pleased me a lot.
if you couldn't pull it off in that outfit in a casino, then you're never going to pull it off.
Exactly. Yeah, completely. But yeah, we stayed there, didn't we? We had the last men standing photo at 5:34 a.m. I checked the timestamp on the photograph.
Impressive.
And I think there was 6 of us left. And yeah, we'd been up chin wagging all night. And there were some brave people that had work the next day and still stayed up till like 4 a.m. to chat and stuff. Which was brilliant. But yeah, a good time had by all, man. I think that has to be a new tradition, is the JBR. Every time there is a new Bond film out, everybody just descends on London and there's a big JBR family meetup, then the film, then the post. I think that's got to happen.
Definitely. Yeah, that has to happen. And also I think it'll be good to have another meetup, even obviously 2 years away for the next film, maybe more, is a long time away. So we'll definitely sort something out for next year, and we'll have another meetup and we'll arrange something. So once we sort of sort out the details.
We'll absolutely. Like maybe like a pre-Christmas JBR get together or something where we all have a good old slap up meal and talk Bond and all that kind of stuff. But it was too much fun to not do something like that again, man, and do it regularly, because there were so many lovely people, so many cool conversations to be had. That it has to become a regular thing. You know, maybe once, maybe even twice a year, we'll like host some sort of meetup and get some bondage on the go. Definitely. So did you have fun, Chris? That's the main question.
That was all right, wasn't it?
It was all right, yeah. So
like you, I think if I'd said it as the best day of my life, I probably wouldn't be too far from the truth. You know, it was just an awesome experience.
Yeah, I know you've had some pretty good days in your time, Chris, that might sort of match up to it. That might match up to it. But yes, but that was just unbelievable. It was like childhood dreams coming true, the whole thing. It was amazing. And yeah, I just can't wait to see the next film now, I think. But yeah, positive feelings all round, amazing few days, great stuff. So I think that about wraps up today's episode, doesn't it, Chris? Yeah,
sounds about right. So no spoiler in this one, but we just wanted to give you sort of an idea of what we felt during the day, and obviously our sort of thoughts about the event and everything. And yeah, hopefully that came across okay.
Absolutely, very nice. So what we're going to do is we're not going to reveal what we're going to be talking about in each day. It's going to be like a James Bond advent calendar for you throughout November. You just got to basically check the website, check your feeds and all that kind of business, and see what nugget of fun you're going to be presented with each day. I'm excited. I know what's coming up, and I'm even excited to see what comes up tomorrow. But yeah, so we had a little bit of a delay getting the first episode out today, but it's going to be every morning from now on. So it should be in your feeds before work each day, so you can listen to us on the train or the bus or when you're driving to work or whatever it is. But what must be mentioned is JBR listener Brett Spencer, who all the way from down under has some rather nifty graphic design skills. He's the fellow that made the Facebook and Twitter cover photo where he's cut our heads off and put them on Daniel's body, which looks banging. He's made some brilliant artwork for every single episode as well. So it's kind of like images that match what we're talking about on that day. So good old Brett, we salute you, my friend. And obviously, if you are in need of a graphic designer, give Brett a call, because he's the business. If you look at what he's done on the JBR page and all these 30 Days of Spectre posts, then you'll see what I mean. So if you need a graphic designer, get in touch with Brett. That's brett@brettspencer.com. I will repeat it one more time. It's Brett with 2 T's at brettspencer.com. Drop him an email if you need any graphic design work done. He's a Bond fan and he's bloody good. What more do you want in a graphic designer, Chris? I ask you.
Don't need anything else, do you?
No, absolutely not. So there we have it. Episode 1 of 30 Days of Spectre in the bag. Obviously, we didn't talk about the film all that much today. We were just talking about our red carpet experience, but we will be back tomorrow. We're going to go hard and fast on the spoilers. We're going to get stuck in. We're going to go deep and hard and moist on the entire film. And we're going to start that tomorrow. And tomorrow's subject, I'm so excited to talk about. I'm so excited to talk about it, Chris.
Yeah, it's going to be, I think you need to be like chained up when you talk about it. Otherwise, your body will just spasm.
Yeah, it's going to spaz. All right, good stuff. Well, until tomorrow, I've been Tom Sears.
I've been Chris Wright.
And James Bond Radio will return in the morning with 30 Days of Spectre, Day 2.
See you then, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.